Hey everyone, welcome back to another Godzilla Battleline video, and I got for you another meta busting guide, and this is the most requested video I've gotten by far in all the comments and in my Discord. That being said, if you have been wondering what the metas are or have been and is, and if you're struggling with it, a great way to learn how to counter it without me making a guide for it is to join the Discord down below. I understand people might not have Discord or might not know how to use it, and that's fine, but if you do have a Discord and you want to learn more about Battleline, we almost have 500 people in there that will all help you figure out whatever you need to be figuring out. But with that being said, I want to talk about this deck on screen. Now, this is not a meta deck, as you can tell by the title, but it is, in fact, a deck full of meta characters that I want to talk about, and then talk about some decks that I have in my reserve spots over here that you could be using. Obviously, you don't have to use everything that I'm telling you in this video, and you don't have to use my decks one-to-one. I'm just basically explaining to you why some of these characters are meta and how you can get around some of them. So, the first up is Godzilla 89. You see him right here. He's been a mainstay of the game for as long as the game has been out. He's still good on the ground, but because there are a lot of ranged units and flyers going around this season, he gets chewed up alive. Now, I will show you a deck that he is viable in, but be warned, he has no air support on himself, so you're going to have to support him. He's really been shining as a leader lately in this meta with his ability to increase the damage for all 5+ energy cost monsters for 15 seconds by 50%. That is a huge damage buff. It's one of the bigger ones that you can actually give to your units as a leader. And this is what people are using. They're using Kiryu, King Ghidorah, Mogira, and Ultima, Mega Gearus, Super X. All of these units can be buffed by this ability. So it's 2 cost, and it has a 1.5-minute cooldown, so you can use this like 2 times in a match at the minimum, and it is very powerful, and this is why a lot of people are using him as a leader. I would say this season he's more meta as a leader than he is a unit. Next up, Godzilla Ultima. Terrestrius did get that nerf. It is harder to level up Ultima now, so you're seeing a lot less of them run. However, when you do see Terrestrius on the field, I guarantee you most of you are gunning for that Terrestrius with the King Caesar to try to take him down before Ultima comes onto the field, and we all know why. Ultima has the second best range in the game. He would be first if it wasn't for Super X. He does pretty good damage, but it's mostly his range is where he shines, and he can get pretty beefy the higher up he goes in his levels. So he's pretty easily counterable by Kamacuras, King Caesar, stuff like that. You really want to stop him when he's Terrestrius. But if you can prevent your opponent from like evolving their Terrestrius into Ultima the whole game, by the first overtime and they can't get it to evolve, they're most likely not going to get him to evolve. So making sure that you can neuter the Ultima in the early game is huge on stopping this very powerful unit from making his presence on the field. And it should be noted that a lot of people will throw Ultima into their deck, but Ultima is mostly the primary damage dealer of decks for his energy cost and his range and his abilities. So people don't play around Ultima. They expect Ultima to fit into their decks, but Ultima is a very specific kind of unit that you really need to give a little bit more attention to, because he is difficult to use and easy to counter, especially early on in the game. Next, Super X. Super X has basically shaken up the game ever since it was introduced. It was slept on for the first 2 seasons, or the first season that it was in the game, but that was because no one could really level it up. Now that people have it leveled up, it's seeing a ton of play, and even with the nerf that it got to its energy cost, and I think it was its attack speed, got nerfed too. Oh, I took it off the screen. Super X still is an absolute game changer for 5 energy. It has the best range. It can cross map pretty much any unit, and it's just great to have in reserve. This is a unit that, if you ignore it, will eventually take you down. Now, the positive is it's only a single target attacker, so you do have time to work up to it if it's attacking your leader. It's not going to kill it in like 5 hits, but, you know, left alone for a while, it's going to do a ton of damage. So my advice to counter Super X, you can Dimension Tide, but if your Dimension Tide doesn't kill this thing, you just blew 4 energy. You could drag this away from your leader, but like I said, it has a lot of range, so that Dimension Tide for 4 energy is only going to buy you like a second or 2. Any flying unit will counter this if they can get close enough, so Rodan, Mothra, Mega Gearus, King Ghidorah, Anything with long range, another Super X, Ultima, anything that can hit anti-air, it just has to get close. Super X doesn't have a lot of health. The benefit of Super X is that it can hit so often from so far away. That is why it is being seen in like every top deck that you're seeing. A lot of them are running Super X because the range is too good to pass up. So really easy to deal with if you are prioritizing it. If you're not even thinking about it and you're like, okay, there's a G89 on my left, there's a Super X on my right, G89 obviously is going to do more damage as soon as it gets to me, but while you're dealing with that G89, that Super X is going to be chipping away at you. So you really want to try to deal with that. I use my Ultima and a Super X, and Manila even is good to fight against, but like I said, this is like Terrestrius is a character on the field that once they appear, you probably have to deal with immediately, or you are going to reap what you sow later on in the match. Next up, Biollante. Now, Biollante is seeing a ton of use on the field and as a leader. So, on the field, with her buff in the water, this is for both forms. For as long as she's in water, she gets a 180% attack boost. And she has insane range, right? Look at, you place her down on this video, she's going to hit all of the Kamakuras. She effectively has the highest DPS in the game, right? She can hit multiple units. She gets a 180% boost. So what is mine? Mine's at level 10. If I were to use her on the field, she's doing 427 damage a hit. So give that a 180% damage boost as long as she's in water. Obviously, if you have her on land, she's not very powerful, but she's very strong in the water, and that's exactly where you want to use her in New York. London especially, she's very powerful. You can use her on land. She's really great, honestly, for a 3-cost character. She's one of the best characters in the game. And I don't think it has to be said that her leader ability is also insane. It just got nerfed, but look at this. For 60-second cooldown, 1 energy, and it's for 30 seconds now, you're going to increase all your ranged attackers attack by 20% for 30 seconds. It was 45 seconds with the 15-second cooldown. Now it has a 30-second cooldown. Doesn't matter. Still insanely powerful. Still very usable in the field, especially with the energy cost and that cooldown. So huge ability right there. Huge boost to her in the field. All around a great unit. Biollante, I think, should be your leader. If she's not your leader, she should be in your deck. Especially, you know, if you need a low-cost unit and you have her leveled up. She's really good. Next is King Ghidorah. We all know what King Ghidorah does. He has probably the best AoE in the game. He just hits such a wide range on the field. His range was nerfed a few seasons ago, but that doesn't really seem to be mattering too much, and his cost was raised by 1. That's probably the most detrimental thing to him. That's why a lot of people are not running King Ghidorah. However, nothing else has changed, just the cost. So if you don't mind waiting like an extra second or two for that 1 more energy you need to place him, he's still extremely viable. He's still extremely powerful. He's the best AoE. He's a flyer. And he just wrecks shop, especially at the higher levels. He's very, very potent. So, King Ghidorah, big recommendations for me. A very big damage dealer that you could be adding to your team if you don't have a primary DPS that you're supporting. Next, Manila. Manila has been meta pretty much the entire time he's been in the game. He got nerfed, but it's still inconsequential. He just can't stun lock most units. He can still stun lock Burning Godzilla, I believe. Anything with more than 3-second attack speed, he can lock up, which is fine. But his range is really good. He's 2 costs, and he has the best slow in the game. So Manila's always been around. Easy to deal with unit. You know, just throw a swarm at him or something. But thought I would just throw him in here and mention him anyway. Next is Battra. Battra is seeing so much play. Battra is pretty much broken at this point. So what Battra does is he will give a attack boost of 150% for 15 seconds when you drop him on the field. This works as a larva and as the Imago form. This is an insane boost for 15 seconds. If you're running a Biollante deck like myself, you can run the Biollante the buff for the 20% boost, and then once that's over, drop a Battra down on your team and crank them up again for 150%. This is an amazing defensive ability, especially if you're playing really close to the chest, like on the screen right here. The Biollante comes up and there's Mecha Godzilla. Mecha Godzilla probably would have died, you know, but Battra not only being there to support with a second attack, you know, Mecha Godzilla and Battra are attacking, but that buff is making both of them do an insane amount of damage. And I have been hearing reports that if you place Battra on top of your leader also is getting buffed. So that is a huge thing to consider as well, especially if you have a leader that will hit multiple units like Jet Jaguar or Biollante, having an additional 150% damage on that is absolutely massive and can be totally a game changer. Next, Dimension Tide. Dimension Tide, 4 energy, and you can drag opponents anywhere. It'll kill swarms, you can kill Super X. Pretty solid, pretty standard item that you're seeing a lot of play now. This and Sande are being used pretty much to slow down the field. It's a great control unit. I don't use it personally, but I know a lot of top players are, and I've been seeing it a lot in like the top 100s, top 200s of the leaderboard. Honorable mentions for this are King Caesar and the Kamacuras. They're always, seeing play. King Caesar's great for taking down evolution units, and Kamacuras for 2 costs are an amazing body blocker. So those are honorable mentions. I don't think they're meta, but they're definitely super useful in your deck. Next, let's take a look at the decks that I am using. So this is my deck. This is my primary deck that I use. I use Biollante Leader, right? I have Godzilla Terrestrius as my main damage dealer, and my stream knows this very well, that if they can just take down my Terrestrius before I can get him to evolve, and I can never get Ultima up, I'm probably not going to win the battle. However, if I can get my Ultima up, he's my main damage dealer, him with Super X, I can basically hit anything from anywhere on the board. Battra buff them, Manila and Kamacuras to body block, Ghidorah for some extra AoE. You don't need to use Ghidorah. If you wanted to run this deck, that's a flex pick. I prefer Ghidorah, my favorite unit, one of my favorite units, period. One of my favorite monsters, and just a great unit overall with a recent damage buff. So I like using Ghidorah. And then my King Caesar's there to take down all the evolution units. Battra is seeing a lot of play. I'm going to take that down. Biollante seeing a lot of play. I'm going to take that down. Mothra, take it down. King Caesar's always been the gold standard for pre-evolution killing, so I don't really need to talk about him too much, but this deck, pretty much everyone on this deck benefits from the Biollante buff. Ultima, Super X, Battra, Ghidorah, and Manila all benefit. The only characters in this deck that do not get buffed from Biollante buff are King Caesar and Kamacuras, and I can always give them the Battra buff to support them. So this team, very long range play, very defensive team, and my basic strat with this is to hit my enemies and get them as low as possible before they can reach me. Anything I can do to stall them from reaching my damage dealers, I will do. Putting out Kamacuras, putting out Manila, putting out King Caesar to turn a King Ghidorah in the other direction, or turn a Mega Gearus in the other direction. If I get halfway across the map and someone uses Kiryu or Mogera on my leader, Super X and Ultima will just turn around and nuke them. So this is the deck I use all the time. Average 3 cost energy. Pretty solid, pretty standard, but if you don't want to use a Biollante deck, here's a deck with G89 in it. So, G89, leader, so I can give you that damage buff to the 5 costs or more. I only have in this deck as 5 cost Super X and King Ghidorah, but honestly, they will do a ton of damage. So once those get into the battle, I can use that buff and drop them, and it'll do the Lord's work, right? Caesar we went over, Manila we went over, Kamacuras we went over. I have Biollante in here, a really amazing unit for really cheap. Throw her in the water, throw her down as a great AoE clear. Amazing. The Super X in this deck is the flex pick. Super X is good for manipulating the battlefield, like I said earlier, but you could really throw Battra in here if you wanted additional support. Battra Battra Imago is 5 energy, right? That Battra Imago will benefit also from the Godzilla 89 buff. You could put like Kong in there. I wouldn't recommend it, but like you could put Kiryu in there. Dropping Kiryu down in the field could be something you want to do. Mega Gearus, Mogera, like they'll benefit. So the Dimension Tide is the flex pick in this deck. You could really put whatever you want in that spot. I would recommend something that will benefit from the G89 buff, right? This could be a meta deck. It might just need a little bit of extra work, and whatever characters you may have that you want to adjust there, go for it, because that's the flex pick. But this is my G89 deck. So I had some technical difficulties, and I'm going to have to film this Gigan part again and the final bit of the video. But that being said, I don't think I need to explain to you guys too much how to use a Gigan deck. Basically, what you're going to want to do is get your units into your opponent's backyard as soon as humanly possible. You're not really playing a strict defense. You're not really playing a strict offense. You're going for a hard brute force approach onto your opponent's side of the field. So I'm not saying this is a meta Gigan deck or the meta Gigan deck you need to be using. There are plenty of amazing Gigan decks in my Discord. I see them all the time. This is just the one that I'm finding success with, and obviously you can swap out units like, oh, you don't have a high Kiryu, or you don't want to use Kiryu, it's too expensive, or you don't want to use Super X, it's too expensive. You can put Mogera in there, Well, he's already in there, but Mega Gearus is what I meant to say. Battra, you know, if you wanted Space Godzilla or Jet Jaguar, whatever. Like, you have a better grasp of your decks than I do. You don't have to do my decks that I've shown you one-to-one, but these are just generally good ideas of what you should be doing. So these leaders, Biollante, Gigan, and G89 are all seeing probably the most play right now. I omitted Kiryu from this video, but I'll give you a free bonus. Kiryu deck, just make something that you can stall out until the halftime, and then use your absolute zero cannon on them, and then hit with the missiles or the trains or Mogera or something, and you profit. You win. So very easy to make a Kiryu deck. You just have to learn how to stall out your opponent. But with that being said, these are my decks. So this is once again my Gigan deck that I basically just rush down my opponent. This is my G89 deck, which I am buffing King Ghidorah and the Super X, and then you can put Battra in instead of the Dimension Titan, probably be way better, honestly. Let's actually swap that out right now. Solid deck, one more energy cost, and I get another unit that can be buffed by G9 and can supply a buff to the rest of my team. So that's huge, and Biollante is an amazing unit in the water. And then this is my primary deck. This is an entirely ranged based deck, just a huge defense, which I find makes an amazing offense, an unbreakable wall if you play it right. So that's this video. Sorry for the awkward cut in the middle, but I hope you like this one. I know it's a little long, so there will be timestamps, but thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.